Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Radio Free Wall Street. And this is a very interesting show. We have to talk about oil superpowers. You know, I'm old enough to remember the Arab oil embargo, and that brought America to its knees. And that gave power to some of the slimiest, shittiest people in the world, with societies based on kings and torture and barbaric relics of the past, truly. Insult intended. Sharia law is obscene against everything we believe in America with our freedoms. And if that's how people want to live, that's their right. Now, I just don't want to finance it. So if they want to have torture centers, have females whipped, and all that crazy shit, veils and all that, more power to them. Beat the shit out of that bitch. Cut them heads off. Body parts removed. I think have a party. Obviously Europe did it for a long time during the Dark Ages, and I guess it's time for Islam to have its Dark Ages. And I know there's some enlightened people there, but hey, this barbarian shit's pretty cool. Now, I just don't want to finance it, and for years, people that should have been marauders following the goat herds and picking dates lived in opulence well beyond their talents, well beyond their imagination, well beyond their work. And that's because they had to sit on a whole big pile of oil. And, God blesses who he blesses and he curses who he curses. So they had their party. And now that day is done. No longer is Saudi Arabia the world's largest oil producer. No longer is OPEC in control and able to price oil at will. And the situation has changed dramatically because the change has been that the EIA announced that the United States of America, from January 1994 to August 2018, I've got a chart up there for you on the home page, that the United States, as of this year, has become the world's largest crude oil producer, bar none. Now, this is an important lesson. Remember, we told you about fracking around the clock. We predicted this change years ago. We traded $150 barrel oil down to 38, and we're getting ready to trade oil down again. Let me tell you very simply the situation. The whole world's changed. Now, kicking and screaming along the way, reality is that OPEC will be no dick, no account, nobody, nothings, and people will not treat this is the Saudi oil minister. Well, okay, go ahead and clean up that table and get those dishes put away, okay? Saudis will be reduced to poverty. They will go back to the primitive societies as they deserve. They will be killing each other off like flies between the Shiites and the Sunnis, and I say, let them just kill each other off. And no longer will this be financed by oil. That is why the Saudis are trying to sell their oil company $2 trillion. Hurry, get step right up, ladies and gentlemen. Get them while they're hot. The Saudi Arabia shares in the biggest oil company in the world, the biggest IPO in history. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Why? Well, they're going to sell you their oil $200 a barrel through the IPO because they know it's going to go down to 10. $10 an hour barrel oil, here we come. Now, there'll be twists and turns along the way. One of the biggest impediments right now is that American production, which is approaching 11 million barrels per day, will be at 15 in less than 3 years. And that is a tipping point where you go, these Saudis are a real pain in the ass. They're not reliable. And America will be delivering oil around the world. And we'll be in a depression by then. And oil will be at $10 a barrel. And it'll be economical. The pipelines will be in the Permian Basin. And reality is that, it's that old story. If you bought the hotel at $50,000 a room, that's one price. And if you got it at the auction for $10, well, that's quite another one. And That change is significant, and it is relative and relevant. Let me make sure you understand this. The old ways of extracting oil are over with. Okay, you stuck a hole in the ground, you try to suck it up, and you left 50, 75, 80% of the oil behind. Now you've got a technology where you make a lot of holes, like straws, and you crack up the rocks, and you let the oil flow to a central point, and now you're recovering 80% of the oil instead of only recovering 20. And now all those old oil wells that were no longer economically feasible, well, they become feasible again. Now, the other change is that finally Americans have stopped listening to the Saudi and OPEC-supported Greens going, oh, my God, my royal ancestors walked through this burial land, and you're running a pipeline, and he's going to trip over it. Well, that's okay. If he's been running around here for a couple hundred years as a ghost, he'll figure out the pipelines there, and he won't trip over. It'll be all right. So no one's buying that bullshit anymore. And reality is that oil is being opened up. Fracking is opened up. Huge, huge, huge swaths of land that were regarded as non-traditional, non-recoverable oil now are recoverable. And the oil has changed. And the production has changed. And America has changed. And you know what the outcome is going to be? Basically, bye-bye Arab oil cartel. Holy shit. Yemen and all these shitholes will be at war with each other, and the Saudis and the Iranians. Even the Iraqis can get in there for fun. And basically, it'll be the two superpowers, the United States and Russia, duking it out, because Russia has vast oil supplies also. And by the way, you have a lot of supplies in Mexico that are untouched. And when you look outside the Arab world, you go, who needs these assholes? Who needs their Sharia law? Who needs all that crazy shit they're doing, you know? We're not going to do sword dance with you anymore. We ain't put up with your shit. Here are the weapons. Annihilate each other. Muhammad's right. You're all pieces of shit. Muhammad, my brand of Muhammad versus your brand of Muhammad. Let them have at it. The Shiite and Sunnis will extinguish each other. They will play themselves out and not be of concern to the rest of the world. In fact, the truth be known, that's part of how the U.S. destabilized Iraq was to this day. You kill this Sunni imam, and then I kill the Shiite one and blame each other, and it don't take much to get them kicked off into that they're at war with each other to the death. And I like a society of people that will fight to the death against their own best interests. And I like the idea that Muhammad's going to extinguish himself. Hear my words. If you're worried about the rise of Islam, you know what the nice thing about Islam is? They're going to rise up big enough to annihilate each other. So just stand back. And the nice thing is, this, you want to hear the really nice thing? They ain't going to have no money. What did they do with their vast, vast, vast wealth far beyond what their technical expertise, investment, or anything allowed? They built ice skating rings, Formula One racetracks, dredged islands in the shape of palm trees. Their leaders living the life of royalty and their citizens, most of them don't work. There has been no cure for cancer. There's been no great progress for mankind despite the bullshit. And basically, societies that have vast oil wealth normally don't have to do anything else. Their population become lazy. Their financial system is, to say the least, corrupt. And it's because the wealth far exceeds the expertise. And I repeat again, I don't give how many universities you want to send the Saudi royal family to. I don't care how many in England or Oxford or Yale or Harvard. You just got a congenital idiot. And nobody's going to dare fail them. And so what happens is they don't have that one thing necessary to make human survival work. You got to have pain. Have you suffered in your lifetime? Have you known sorrow, distress, bankruptcy, failures? Well, that's why you're successful. If you think back for your life, it's when they knocked you on your ass, stomped the shit out of you, that made you get up and find your inner strength when you had no inner strength, made you continue fighting and stronger. That silver spoon is the greatest curse in the world. I'll tell you what. I grew up among a lot of silver spoon people, and including mothers that drank themselves to death and committed suicide. They had wonderful lives. They lived in mansions. And the kids were loser, boozer, drug users. They wanted for nothing. They had no strife. And it destroyed them. It destroyed them. And the oil cartels are a great example of that. You know, I've done a lot of business in what I call the low latitudes. And there's something about that equator that's a curse. And you know what the curse is to the low-latitude countries? There's no freaking winter. Like, we had this guy called White Eyes. By the way, he died of AIDS at a very young man. And he worked for me briefly, and he didn't want to work. It was high. They called him White Eyes because his eyes were bloodshot all the time for all the ganja he was smoking. I think his hero was Bob Marley. And poor White Eyes said to me once when he didn't show up for work, and I fired him, he goes, you know, I don't really care. I said, what? It's real obvious you don't care, bro. What's the problem? He goes, there are fish in the sea. There's fruit in the trees. Why worry? And there's no need for refrigeration because you got the fish out of the lagoon. You ate them fresh right out of the water. And when you want a mango or a coconut, you just climb the tree and got it. And that meant that there was the greatest gift God gave mankind was a winter. Why? You've got to plan ahead. There are no crops in the fields. There's no fruit in the trees. The seas are too rough to fish. So that means that you have to think in the abstract, and you have to plan ahead, and you have to prepare. And you leave an agrarian society to an industrialized manufacturing, sophisticated one. Look at Japan. They ain't got shit in resources, and they're arguably the world's second, third economy, depending on how you want to count them. And why? They had nothing. They had to work. They had to be successful. And if you look at the discrepancies between southern and northern halves of America, the northern half of America is more productive. It's more industrialized. We kicked their asses in the Civil War. By the way, if you guys want to start, no one kick your ass again. They started the war. There was, basically one factory capable of making cannons in the South and 20 in the North. The North won the war because it was industrialized, and the South was an agricultural economy. I don't give a shit. I believe in war. Hell, I hate every goddamn buddy. Now, listen to me. I want you to be very smart here. Look at Europe. Look at Italy. You got northern Italy and southern Italy. They're two separate worlds, okay? Where the climate is nice and the winters are mild. People do not have to suffer. Suffering is the greatest gift God gave mankind. Stress, hunger, winter. In the tropics, you can put a hammock between the coconut trees, and you got a place to live, okay? You aren't going to survive Dearborn, Michigan in the winter in a hammock. You got to have shelter, and you've got to put away wood. And you're not going to harvest anything in town. You're not even going to dig a potato on the ground if there's one there. So it's solid frozen. And this is the classic example of what's going on with the oil cartels. They have not understood from the start fracking. You know what? They financed it. The stupid sons of bitches, by keeping oil so high for so long, artificially high, have absolutely positively financed the destruction. And you know what? They still don't see it. So as far as OPEC is, well, bye-bye. America is now the world's largest producer of crude oil. And by the way, when you add natural gas to it and distillates and all the other range, we far outstrip everyone. And there's vast more oil to be brought to market. And although the pipelines are maddeningly slow to come online, will come online. In fact, I'll give you a prediction. America will build too many frack wells. America will build too many pipelines. It will build too many oil terminals and oil storage facilities. And we will have a big sell-off. Can't wait. See, the capitalist system builds to excess. Now, what you're supposed to have happen when people build to excess is you're supposed to have the orderly destruction through bankruptcy and destruction of capital. The reason why our system is failing is that, again, we've moved pain from the system. If bankers knew that all these BBB shit that soon will be D, in fact, many are D already, although it's not known yet, and all these special purpose entities and all these shadow banking meant that they would go broke, they wouldn't friggin' do it. What did you teach them? We'll bail you out. Da-da-da! We're going to go ahead and save you. There goes the discipline. The capitalist system fails, And the failure becomes so big we end up with a depression. And God only knows what the millennials will create in the Great Depression, but it's going to be something very ugly and not resembling capitalism, I promise you. But this goes to show you that one nice thing that's coming out of this thing, one great thing, is what has the Saudis and the Islamic oil-producing companies done with their wealth? Made war, trying to kill each other off. And now what's going to happen is they'll do it with sticks and stones. So they're going to be. Let me tell you something. I've been there, and I can tell you've never seen a more screwed up culture in your life. With talking about it's funny. We got ABC, NBC, CBS, and almost all the broadcasters firing their guys because they've harassed females. I agree with it, by the way. But you never hear anything about the oppression of women in the oil countries because it's not politically correct. Why? Because we need the oil from them. Yeah. It's like, oh shit, don't say anything, they'll get mad. We embargo and put on trial people who commit genocide around the world. Notice how nothing's really being done about the genocide that's taking place in the Islamic oil countries. Why? Well, because the world needs the damn oil. Now, let me tell you a little story. In 5 years, we're not going to need their friggin' oil. I'll give you a prediction. The vast majority of the Saudi and Iraqi oil will stay in the ground and never be brought to market. America and Russia will be the two competing nations as the great oil suppliers to the world of natural gas. This will take away, the balance of trade deficit Donald Trump's got a hard-on for. Well, if he stopped drooling on himself long enough and drooling on Kellyanne, I think he drools on Kellyanne, I think he'd realize that we don't really have a problem. I got an idea. Why don't we let the Chinese have virtually no energy, buy our energy, and supply us steel at half the cost of production and be our slaves? Now let's give me a 1, 2, 3. Why don't we make all the iPhones there, and let's do India, which is also hungry for oil, and we'll become the world's energy supplier, become a vastly wealthy nation with a balance of trade surplus, and stop this stupid-ass trade shit. Of course, that would be a two-step thought process, and believe me, Presidente Trump's not capable of that. So you pinch here, you squeeze here, you steal here is about all he knows. But you want to hear the nice part about it? Whether it's a deep state conspiracy or not, he's gone. In fact, I'll be covering that in the news broadcast of the day today. The biggest selling book of all time besides the Bible very well may be a book named Fear. And this book outlines your problem with Donald Trump, and you got a great big problem. And he's going down whether you like it or agree with it. Now, it's like, he's the only great president we ever had, they're going to ruin him. Yep, he's done. Whoever did it, whatever reason for, bad, good, indifferent, I don't give a shit. The sucker is gone, toast, dead meat. Bye-bye, Mr. President. Go back to your Gotham Castle up there and, steal money from your presidential library. Because this guy is toast. And we are going into a depression. And we're going to make a whole lot of money as real estate and stock market wipes out. And that's the penalty for 10 years of free money to every asshole in the world, off-the-book entities with no accounting, no control, and loans that never should have been made. But the bright spot is that America will be not only the world's largest oil producer, but the world's largest oil exporter by far. We will have no balance of trade surplus, even if we get into depression, because what? People need our oil. They're going to pay us for it. And oil changes the equation like nothing you've ever seen. So I want you there, and I want you to understand this. Remember, I'm the guy that years ago predicted the fracking revolution. People were actually laughing at that time. I thought, well, it's pretty obvious. I guess it's pretty obvious if you know how to analyze for yourself. But Slavin Damage said, no, fracking wells won't be economical. They'll need to be refracked over and over again, and then it won't work, and it won't work, and they kind of play out. Remember all that bullshit? Well, here's a news flash. It wasn't true. It didn't work out that way. Fracking will forever change the energy equation. America will come to its rightful place as the world's energy provider. Even at $10 a barrel, which is what we're headed for. Of course, that $10 a barrel oil means you go back to a $5,000 car. And that $1.5 million house in New Jersey, $2 million, goes back to $30,000 where it belongs, and probably lower. and you're into a whole revolution. Now, those same assholes that tell you I'm full of shit also told you I was full of shit about fracking and all about America's dominance in the oil business. See, the genie's out of the fracking bottle. You can't go back. And I want you prepared for the great fracking revolution. Again, the economic impact has still not been felt yet. And as far as Saudi Arabia, well, they'll cut off arms and hands and legs and do all that nasty shit. But we won't have to pay attention to it anymore. Do you really think anybody would pay attention to the Saudis if they were hopelessly dependent upon their oil? Do you really think anybody's going to pay attention to those son of bitches when you can say, you keep that all sticking up your ass, and I don't give a damn. You guys have jihad day and night, and the Shiites say the Sunnis are full of shit. The Sunnis say the Shiites are full of shit. Why don't you guys just kill yourselves off? So I want you to have fun as the world comes completely unglued, and people who've got a brain, people understand the equation, get vastly wealthy, and what happens to stupid people? Stupid people don't get to keep their money.